It's that time. It's time for the WWE 2K17 wish list. Everything I hope to see in this year's release. It's WWE 2K17, so I thought it was appropriate to come up with 17 suggestions to improve the game from last year's release, WWE 2K16. Now, in the event that you would prefer to read this, you can definitely see this wish list with the same or similar concepts in my Bleacher Report article, which the link is in the description. So let's talk about the game just as an intro before we start getting into the suggestions. There was a good number of things that I actually liked about WWE 2K16. I think a lot of times people generally just kind of come down on a game from the beginning of a couple things here or there aren't there. They automatically have a bad taste in their mouth. But from a gameplay standpoint, I thought that the game was fun. But the series still does have a way to go, in my opinion, before it can be considered on the same level as NBA 2K from a quality standpoint. We are seeing big jumps from one version to the next on this current console of systems. So we're hoping that we get an opportunity to see that same type of jump with WWE 2K17 from 16. So without further ado, let's jump into our first suggestion. Gameplay. Now, I cut this into sections. So we got gameplay, modes and presentation, all of that sort of thing. So this first section is about gameplay. And the first thing that I would like to see is I would like to see you're able to fight into the crowd and backstage. So there was like a glitch in WWE SmackDown versus Raw 2008 where you could like morph into the crowd. But that's not what I'm talking about. I'm talking about a legit gameplay mechanic that allows you to throw someone over the railing, fight up the steps, up through the crowd, the way we often see matches progress on real WWE programming. This is a normal situation. Now, we don't see them fight backstage as much as we used to, but I think that would still be something that's cool to have. Now, WWE 2K16 had backstage brawls on the last generation of consoles, but I would like to see that on this generation of consoles, as well as things like hardcore matches and the no disqualification matches that are able to, have the fight go just about anywhere in the arena. That's something that we got used to in regards to WWE programming, and I think it should be in WWE 2K17. The next thing on the gameplay standpoint, or the gameplay front, is Ragdoll Physics and improved object and human detection. This is something that WWE games have struggled with pretty much for almost as long as I can remember. We've all seen the wonky situations with tables and chairs and the ring steps. Ultimately, I would love to see them pick up an engine that functions similar to Euphoria that was used with Grand Theft Auto, or maybe even the Frostbite engine or the Fox engine that runs on Pro Evolution Soccer, where you see the real-time physics incorporated into the game. We have not ever seen that in a WWE game. I know how challenging that's going to be. I do. I almost want to say that in order for them to really be able to do that, they might actually have to skip a year. And I'm almost positive that won't happen, but we can still hope and wish, which is why this is a wish list. But just imagine having ragdoll physics in a situation where you got a guy up on the top rope and he gets knocked off with an enziguri. To see him tumble down off the ropes with his leg hitting the top rope, elbow hitting the second rope, roll and fall in a way that's natural for the way a body would fall if it's supposed to be like some sort of a lifeless type of a situation. That could add so much to just the finishes, the finishing moves, signature moves, moves that take place with props. You never see anybody fall the exact same way. That just adds unlimited just playability and unlimited replay value because you never see the same fall twice, which is something similar to Madden, because if you have real-time physics and real legit physics in a football game, you never see the same tackle exactly twice. So next up on the gameplay side is weight detection in every facet of gameplay. Now they have taken some steps with weight detection where you just can't from the beginning of the match do moves that, you know, a smaller guy wouldn't be able to do to a super heavyweight. But when it comes down to finishers and signatures and reversals, it doesn't matter again. Case in point, just take a look. Finn Balor pulling off his normal signatures and normal finishes against humongous super heavyweights. So I would love to see, you know, that put into play. You know, there's when we watch those really small superstars take on the large superstars, we already know there's no way they're going to be able to do their finisher. If you remember back, it used to be difficult for CM Punk to do the go to sleep to larger opponents, because him having to hoist those guys up in that fireman's carry and then being able to control them enough to drop the face on the knee, very difficult for him to do, almost impossible. Some guys he just wouldn't even try it with. So then that's why he had the Anaconda Vice and other moves that he could finish matches with. And that's what we need to see. That particular part of the moveset needs to be eliminated when you have the cruiserweight versus super heavyweight type of matchups. Next up, let's go to my career, which it's weird enough. I'm not saying that my career is perfect or close to perfect, but I only got 2 things really from my career. And the first one's very small. This is awesome chance for excellent action sequences. So we hear that this is awesome chant all the time in WWE programming. A lot of times we hear it really kind of like it's pretty overused. But sometimes it definitely is worth it. And I dig it because it's a way to acknowledge great actual in-ring work. So I think that that's something that should be incorporated in my career, and it should be like an objective or an achievement in your career, where if you obtain 5 this is awesome chants, then you get to level up your superstar to this, or level up your superstar to that. I think that would be totally cool. So I love to see that added in. Next thing is really big, and this would take some doing, but it's huge. Being able to record and perform your own promos. Promos are everything in wrestling. I mean, you can have a guy who is the most muscle-bound, athletic, awesome guy in the ring. He's only going to be able to go so far. He has to be able to get that microphone. He has to be able to sell his character, good or bad, to the WWE universe or to the wrestling universe. In WWE games, you never really see the ability, you never really see the scenario where someone is trying to, you just can't really do it. They took some strides this year with WWE 2K17, allowing you to, giving you some role-playing aspects of it, but still not quite exactly where you need it. There was a game or an application, if you want to call it, called Avatar Connect. And on Avatar Connect on the Xbox 360, you could stand in front of your Connect, and your avatar would mimic your movements. You could use, the Connect had the microphone feature, so you can make your voice actually be heard through the screen or through the system itself. I would love to see that similar technology used in WWE 2K17 to allow you to cut your own promos for your wrestlers. I think that would add a great deal or another layer to the overall My Career experience. Let's move to presentation. It is imperative that 2K rework the commentary. It is really bad. Of all of the sports-related games or sports-related titles in existence, by far, in my opinion, WWE has probably it's close. I don't like Pro Evolution's commentary at all. I think it's dreadful. WWE's is right in that same vein. It's really bad. A lot of repeat lines. You can clearly tell that Michael Cole, Jerry Lawler, and John Bradshaw Layfield are not in the same room. So you lose that whole organic feeling that you hear with Kevin Harlan, Clark Kellogg, and Greg Anthony from NBA 2K16. And even, I'm going to even say Jim Nance and Phil Simms are better on Madden than Cole, Lawler, and JBL are. And that's that needs to be resolved. The next thing on the presentation side is, can we please have an instant replay suite where we can control our own replays? I mean, wrestling is a presentation type of an event. When you do a move, I mean, they show you a replay at the end of matches, but oftentimes they cut out the parts you really wanted to see. Instant replay is awesome. I mean, if you think about how big a part YouTube is of most gaming communities, YouTubers need the replay feature to present cool videos. When you don't have the option to do an instant replay, it's very difficult for you to really craft a video the way you want to do it, because you may not have gotten the right angle or multiple angles when you did it originally. So this is very important, and these games benefit a great deal from YouTubers actually making videos on their games. So this is something I would love to see added, and it's just cool even if you're not a YouTuber to be able to go back and look at what you did, especially if you do some sort of amazing spot. Now let's move to modes and options. The first thing on my list is roster updates. WWE 2K has to be considered a sports game. I know wrestling, technically isn't a sport, even though it's an athletic event. Because the outcome is predetermined, you can't necessarily call it a sport. But as far as video games are concerned, it fits into the sports gaming genre. Pretty much every other sports video game franchise offers you roster updates. I know what the challenge primarily is here. It is the amount of work that goes into each model. And because of the work that goes into each model, doing the updates is a difficult situation. So either you have that, or here's a really cool idea, because the WWE creation community is so strong and so good, oftentimes they're doing the updates for you. How about 2K publish what the ratings should be for each wrestler? So yes, you can create whatever version of him you want, but if you want him to be an official version of AJ Styles, if you wanted to be an official version of Sasha Banks, here's what she would be rated. Okay, and then if you update and change the ratings of the superstars who are on the game according to what's happening in WWE storylines, maybe it's a monthly update. I think that would be an awesome thing. If you take a look at what eSports UFC has done with their updates and adding new fighters, I mean, I don't know. Does eSports UFC have an easier time modeling their characters than WWE 2K does? I mean, EA Sports UFC player models are the best in the whole entire sports video game genre, in my opinion. So I don't know if I buy that totally, but I would love to see roster updates. Also on the modes and options side, the return of some of these classic match types. There's hundreds of different match types over the course of wrestling history, and I don't think it's realistic to expect WWE 2K to have all of them. But there are some I consider to be glaring omissions: the ambulance match, hardcore match, lumberjack matches, first blood matches, tornado tag table matches, which used to be there, prize on the pole matches, like when they have the big pole from extending up from the turnbuckle and you got to get a contract off of it or whatever. 3 stages of hell matches. These are all wrestling match types that should be in the game that have not been. Hopefully we get an opportunity to see that. I think this is a doable addition. Next up on the modes and options, now we're about to go creation crazy. I'll just let you know beforehand. Create a finisher needs to come back. That was one of the best parts of creating a superstar on the previous WWE games, was making their finishing move, like chaining stuff together and that looked smooth, and every once in a while you could come up with something that you've never seen before. And there's tons of wrestling moves out there, but every once in a while you could come up with something that was like, okay, I've never quite seen a power bomb pulled off that way. I've never quite seen a cutter done exactly like that. That needs to come back. Absolutely. Next up on the modes and options side is create a taunt. It impact the game because, of course, that's the way you level up your signature and finisher levels or finisher meter. But there's a strategy to it in terms of quicker taunts are easier or better to do because you can kind of spam them or cheese them, which I think is always also kind of lame. You can kind of spam them to get your levels up quicker. But more than anything, the taunt adds personality to your superstar. So if I'm creating a superstar, I want him or her to have a unique taunt that you can't really see. That you haven't seen from another superstar. SmackDown versus Raw, or SmackDown Here Comes the Pain, I think it was called, actually had that. So the functionality used to be there, so I'd love to see that come back. Next on the modes and options, enhance created arena. Now, there are actually some cool things that you can do on created arena right now. I mean, you can place some different stuff up on the ramps, up on the stage. They have several different objects, but I would like to see you be able to just go crazy. I'll give you an example. Now you can't actually create this, but actually on one of them you can. There's a game, The Golf Club. It's a independent golf game, and you can create your own course. And there's really like no limits to the stuff you can do. I mean, you can make a big crater in the middle of the course and middle of the green. You could do all kinds of stuff. And we're talking about wrestling where fantasy and going over the top is encouraged. Okay, so I would love to see you have an option to make any type of arena that is less cookie cutter and less template based than the one they have now, even though the one they have now is improved over what it used to be. Next on the modes and options side, staying with the creation theme, create a story. This was really, if you had the patience and the level and the attention to detail that it took to do this, you really could add hours and hours and hours of fun on your experience with WWE games if you did it. It wasn't necessarily the most user-friendly option or feature, but it was really cool if you ever actually finished creating a full story and you were able to go ahead and play through it or upload it for other people to play through. It was pretty smooth. Having some voice included in there would obviously be better, but of course then that would make the upload, what have you, just that much more difficult. So one thing at a time. If we can just bring the feature back, it would be awesome. Next in the modes and options, let's flesh out universe mode. And in light of what we have just heard about WWE with the brand split coming back, it almost seems like we have to have maybe this needs to go back to GM mode, but we definitely need to have a draft within universe or within GM mode to emulate what's going to be happening on WWE programming in just a month or so. So there's a lot of options already in universe mode, so I don't hate the mode as it is, but I do think that sometimes the booking within the actual universe mode is a little weird. Sometimes the established feuds, they drag on too long, and there's other potentially compelling stuff that gets a little bit ignored, and sometimes just it's just the functionality, the things that get simmed, which unless you're gonna play every match, the matches that get simmed or the events that are simmed are sometimes not all that cool. So I would like to see the logic adjusted there as well as a draft added to the universe mode. Then next up in the modes and options, which we went heavy on modes and options here, this is big. So brace yourself. Adding a My Team or faction mode or My Faction mode would be crazy. My Team is one of the most popular modes in NBA 2K. It's obviously kind of copied off of eSports' Ultimate Team concept, and they did a great job with it, so it makes sense to copy. But everything about that whole concept fits great with the WWE. If you have a mode that allows you to collect virtual cards of current and legendary WWE superstars, getting the cards gives you access to playable versions of the wrestlers. You can take online and compete against other gamers or play offline like in a challenge-based setup. NBA 2K has moment cards that are created after a player performs well in real life. But it would be awesome if you saw moment cards for superstars after pay-per-views. Imagine the moment card for Seth Rollins after Extreme Rules. It would be awesome. Like if you had a sneak attack badge or something to that effect, he would have an extremely high rated version of that because he snuck up on Roman Reigns. Flashback cards for superstars and legendary matches would be awesome. I mean, it's almost endless what you could do with it. But maybe the best part of it though is that you could have it in different. You can have different match types: online cage matches, online ladders, and no disqualification matches. Those would be great. You could create your own tag teams, your own 6-man tag teams based off of the cards that you collect for your My Team, My Faction. I think it would be awesome. Next up on the modes and options, a push towards an eSports friendly mode. Esports is crazy, going nuts everywhere. Any game that can find a way to incorporate some elements of esports in its overall packaging needs to do it. You already have the King of the Ring component, so that's really good because it's obviously tournament style gameplay. But if 2K really wants to take it to the next level and say, hey, we want to be involved in esports, which I've seen them have some paid tournaments already, something like a decathlon of matches, a mode that has you go head to head with a person playing decathlon obviously denotes 10, but 5 to 10 different match types that are placed there for you to be able to determine which person is truly the better player. All right, okay, so maybe you're really good at tag team matches, but not so, singles matches, you're just okay. Maybe you're really good at matches where there are weapons used, and so you're great at going outside the ring, getting stuff, and playing the angles. All of that, and then maybe you throw you guys into a Royal Rumble, and it's you and you and 5 other people or whatever. Something to that effect that gauges the overall best WWE 2K player would be great in an esports format, and it'd also be just fun, period. Modes and options, again, this is huge, and this is the last feature or the last suggestion. This is big time though. We all wait for our showcase mode, or what's going to be the theme for the WWE 2K showcase. I think this year and moving forward, the WWE 2K showcase should be based off of the WWE Network. The WWE has a ridiculously massive video library and professional wrestling assets. I don't know when's the last time, or if you guys even have the WWE Network, but if you go on the WWE Network and go into the vault, just slide through and see how many different past wrestling organizations the WWE has, like almost the entire library, access to the entire library. Now, obviously, you can't just have access to the library. I believe you still have to get the license to use some of the wrestlers from that time. That part I'm not exactly sure on, so they'd have to negotiate that. But having the interface look like WWE Network would be crazy. Jumping around from WCW matches to ECW matches to World Class Championship Wrestling matches to American Wrestling Association matches, all with different filters that present those matches the way they would have been presented at the time. If you're not going to be able to have the different voices from those times, but if you can get the promos actually reenacted, shouldn't be an issue, because the WWE Network has many of those promos already available there. So now you're plugging the audio version over this CGI recreated version, which is what they're already doing. This, I'm telling you, this would pump a ton of life back into the showcase theme, because at some point you can only do the Attitude Era as an entire thing so many times. You do Stone Cold's career, well, that's running through the Attitude Era, so it's now starting to do some repeating. If you do it this way, you take advantage of the library, and the history is continually growing. Take advantage of the library and really, really give people a wrestling history lesson through the showcase mode. I think that would be the best way to approach it. That's all I got. I'm excited to hear you guys' comments. What do you think of this wish list? Is there anything else that wasn't on this wish list that you'd add? I'd love to hear it. And I also appreciate you watching. God bless. Peace.